Hello, welcome. I'm Carol DeChaine, and I am an intuitive and a spiritual guide for practical matters, as well as a Marconics energy recalibration practitioner and teacher. Today, as every Wednesday, I'm bringing out a different type of video that is going to be this month all about heart centered businesses, how to have one, what they are, and the best way, perhaps for you or a way to think about the best way to make this work for you. Because so many times we try a business and it's gone. Unfortunately, it either becomes too difficult, we end up not loving it, or it just doesn't work. You don't attract clients, we don't know what to do, and we aren't persistent enough. So, what do you do? Today, like I said, it's going to be the first in a line of four of about heart-centered businesses. What is it, first off? Well, a heart-centered business is kind of what it sounds like. It's something that your heart is in. It's something that you want with your being, not just you think you want, but that you know you want. So if you check in with your heart, you're going to go, this is what I need to do. It maybe is your life purpose. Maybe it's part of it, or it helps bring life to your life purpose. Meaning that if my purpose is to heal and inspire, that's not what my job is. But perhaps my business is to go about, like with Marconics multidimensional energy, that's the healing section. That's the shifting and the growth section. And then the spiritual coaching and the other types of work I do, the intuitive work, that can help with the inspiring, to help people move forward, to find the love of what they want. So perhaps your heart centered business is something that moves your life purpose forward. It's not something you do day to day that you just go, it's a job. That's totally not what a heart centered business is. A heart centered business is generally something that you may not ever want to stop doing, unless it shifts and morphs into something a little different. So perhaps you're doing it and people go, you need to retire. And you go, no, but I love what I do. This gives me a reason. And it's not just because you need to get up in the morning and you want to help people. There's more than that. It's deeper than that. And some people, they're a doctor and that's what gets them going, or a firefighter. But sometimes the way that you want to help people can shift. So perhaps your day job shifts into something different upon retirement, especially if they have absolutely enforced retirement. So think about what really means something to you. What is that purpose that you want to have? And if you don't know how to find your purpose or you aren't sure what it is, by all means, you can find another video on this in YouTube, or you can go ahead and look at Living Your Limitless Life, which is my podcast. And there you're going to find one specifically on how to find it and another one on how to find it, kind of a job or like a house for that life purpose so that you can move it forward. Maybe a car would be better than a house, but something that houses what you want to do so that you can live it now rather than just feel that what you want to do. The kind of career you want to pull forward that works with your life purpose. So those are both under Living Your Limitless Life, and I'll have a link below this video. But besides that, besides having your life purpose, you just kind of know that this feels right. This is what my heart-centered business is. And you go, yeah, I really feel like this is what I need to do. A lot of coaches are that way. A lot of people who are in the helping professions, that's what they feel. And sometimes they feel like they're not quite in the right niche, but they know they're in the right idea. So perhaps that business needs to shift slightly. The career needs to shift slightly in order to actually encompass what makes your heart sing. So if your heart is singing, knowing I have to do this, then that's what your heart-centered business should be. And you might need to look around, check it out. Maybe you're in the correct career path, but maybe like with a coach, I was in a regular life coaching section, but I wanted to be a spiritual guide. So I ended up taking spiritual coaching classes to help that go in a slightly different direction. Because if you can adjust the way you're feeling and connect more to your spirit, you'll know what you want. You'll know how to fix the things that aren't working for you. You just need to go deeper. And that's what spiritual coaching is about. Whatever religion you are, it doesn't matter. You can connect to your highest self. And that's why I shifted. So you have to kind of adjust it sometimes and find that heart centered business that works for you. So that's what it is. So now, how can you get it to work? First off, please be sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing, which means that as you're working through it and trying to make it up and running, whatever it may be, whether it's like a coaching practice or it's something like a regular career that doesn't have to go out and find people where you get actual job, make sure if you love to do it and it speaks to your heart that you don't suddenly go, oh, now it's a job. Because a job to most people is drudgery. It means I have to get up in the morning. It means, oh my God, I gotta go do it. And we all have days that kind of react to that. But this isn't about that. This is about beyond just the day here and there where you don't want to get out of bed because you'd rather be doing something else. Heart-centered businesses are something that you look forward to. And so make sure that as you're doing this business, as you're trying to bring it up, that you don't get bogged down in so much minutia, so much overthinking, overworking that you end up hating it or not looking forward to it. I'm going to be having some videos on things that are stuff that people don't necessarily like to do and how to get around it. Things like networking, marketing, and social media stuff. What do you do? What's the best way to continue forward on what you love to do and yet not bog down on things you don't think you want to do? So things now, I'm thinking of the startup. With the startup, you have to, maybe you want to get a website if you're an entrepreneur type. You want to get, all the different things that go with that. If you have to have a business license, you need to do all those steps that don't feel like they're heart-centered maybe. Or maybe coming up with the ideas for what you want to call your business and what you want to call yourself. Are you the president? Are you the CEO because it makes you feel good? Are you the owner? Maybe you don't even need a label about your business, but you have, like I do, labels about who you are. I'm an intuitive or a psychic or whatever you want to call it. I'm also a Marconics multidimensional energy, which is really long, practitioner and teacher, to put that on a card. I'm also, as I say, a spiritual guide for practical matters and certified in spiritual coaching and life coaching. That's a lot of words to get on a card, so you have to get it down to the essence of what is the most important for you, or have maybe a couple of cards for different things you do. Like if you've ever seen Hello Dolly, she pans out 20 different cards about all these really wacky things that she says she does back a couple of turns of a century ago. So try and distill what you do into the elevator pitch. But first, what is it? Who are you? How do you want to be perceived? Make sure, like when I originally said I was a spiritual guide for practical matters, I felt like a fraud. I felt like I wasn't good enough to call myself that. So I stopped calling myself that after about a year. I went, oh, no, I'm not really a spiritual coach. I'm just a spiritual person trying to help people guide them on the day-to-day activity of what they do. I went, I feel like I'm a fraud. So I took that off my card and I reworked it. I'm a transformational coach now. Well, that's what I was second. So think about it and don't be afraid to let it morph. Allow it to grow because as a heart-centered business, that's what it does. It doesn't stay solid and firm and this is the way it is. It actually shifts. It grows. It becomes more than you originally thought. Because when you're heart-centered, you allow it to do that. You don't get so stuck in what you want that you don't see the opportunities for growth. You don't see that flower opening for your business. That tight bud starts shifting and opening for you so you can have more than you thought. I never thought I'd be an energy space clearer, but with the energy from the Marconics work I do, it felt right and it really works amazingly well. If people go home and they're down, that's something else I can do. But how do you fit it all on a card? Well, you don't. You make your choices and then you advertise the other ones in different ways. So think about who you want to be in this new business. How do you want to be perceived? What do you want people to call you? Because that's what you'd put on your business card. But then finding that title, that, oh, what do I want to call it? I got lucky there because I actually went to a psychic fair just for fun. And I went to one that was about career. I had like 3 15-minute for $20. It was great. I walked in and this woman, I sat down, I never saw her again. And she started talking about what I should do with my life. What job, what career. She said, well, you're not going to have this job for more than 5 years. And I thought, ugh, that's not good. But sure enough, I ended up leaving that job because I needed more, retiring young, so to speak, from the day-to-day business world because I needed more. But then she said, you're going to be a life coach. No, more than a life coach, something slightly different, more than that. But that's going to be your base. And then she told me that the name that I'm going to be connecting people to their joy. You're going to reconnect people to their joy, she said. So I got really lucky because I went, reconnected joy. Oh my God, write that down. I could call my business this. But reconnect sounds like I'm going backwards, so I ended up shifting it to connect to joy. And a friend of mine said, oh no, put T-O in the middle, put 2 in the middle. So it morphs, it changed, it grew. So don't be afraid to let that happen. Because connecting people to their joy is the core of what I want to do. And that woman knew it. And so pay attention. When you ask for help, when you say, I need a name for this, then start paying attention. They call it a number of different things, masterminding, brainstorming, whatever you want to call it. With a friend or two, come up with ideas on what you could call it. See what really hits home for you. What makes you go, oh my God, I got to write that down. Because that was my reaction. That was that's it, or that's close, but I got to write it down so I remember. So I wrote down reconnect to joy and figured out rest out later. But with this sort of thing, it makes a difference. And usually the name of your business shouldn't change, especially if you do it where you can make all sorts of other decisions. And I've done a pretty long podcast on how to set up your business and the things you need to do. So go and look at my podcast. And if you need that, because you need to do things like that you don't necessarily want to do. I mean, you can do the website and the business card and maybe a virtual card that you can attach to your emails. Get an email address that's probably not just Gmail, although that's okay. It doesn't sound as professional. If you want it to sound professional, you can get it you can also have to get a business license. Maybe you want to incorporate, or depending on your state and what you're looking for. Maybe you want a DBA, doing business as, and you need to, in California at least, you need to register it with the county. You need to put it in the newspaper and publish it. So there are all kinds of things that you need to do if you want a business beyond just, it's just me. Because if the tax people find out you're running a business and you haven't declared it or paid a business license in your city or your county, depending on how you're doing it there and wherever you're living, or if you're out of the United States, it depends on what you need to do. But when you do all that stuff, which I'm not going to get into detail today about, you can get offline. You can be going straight forward with this heart-centered business, going, setting it up. I'm all excited. And then you go, oh, stuff I don't want to do. And sure, you can hire somebody to do those things. But you can also listen to that podcast. You'll get all kinds of ideas. And you'll also get questions to ask a lawyer. Because sometimes you need one meeting to say, this is what I want to do. Here's everything I've heard about. How does that apply to me? And which way should I go? So I give you questions to ask a lawyer, especially in California, but even across the country, if you need to talk to a lawyer about stuff. Things to think about. All those ABC things, those practical matters I was talking about. Because the spiritual part is knowing what you want, knowing it feels right to you. And yes, I know that men aren't always connected to what feels right, but for some reason, they're even better at connecting to their business, what they want in their business, going for it, really not giving up. because it makes no sense to give up. This is the path I took. I'm going for it. We could learn from that, ladies. We could learn from them that be persistent. Don't let go if it's what you want. Throw in the towel if it makes sense or shift with it. But don't just do it because you're sad, you're upset, you're emotionally feeling like it's not doing well. Now, if you need more money, you might want to take a side job, get things going that way so that you don't have to worry about this heart-centered business right away. But many times, heart-centered businesses find the connection because that's what happens. You start, you put it out there, and it means so much to you, and the universe goes, perfect. You lined it up. I'm going to do the rest. I'll get you clients. I'll get you things to do, places to be. I'll help you. And the universe is ready. And you can call it whatever you want. You can call it God. You can call it the Christ, the connection, the spiritual universe, your highest self, and so many other names for whatever you want to call your connection. It doesn't matter what it is. It's your connection to the divine of whatever that means to you. And when you put out in the world what you want and you say, this is what feels right to me, the universe will line it up. Sometimes you have a few bumps because you have some fears or limiting beliefs that get in your way. And you go, oops, I can't do it. Why? Why can't I do it? And it's because you have those fears, fears of failure, even fears of success. You may have, I can't, I'm not good enough. If it's something having to do with the way you look, it could be I'm not attractive enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not handsome enough. I can't make this work. Depending on where you're headed. Think about those things. Know that, sure, all this stuff might get in your way. All these blocks might show up, but they might not. So if they do, someone with a heart-centered business is going to go, all right, let me take a step back and let me look at all the things that are blocking my way. Let me see what I can do. Is it an emotional baggage thing I'm dealing with? Maybe you need a life coach to help you figure out what it is that's blocking you. Maybe it's just as simple as I need to hire somebody to do those parts that bog me down. I need to hire a web person to set up something for me. Or I need to have a creative person who can come up with social media things because it's not me. I'll give them all the ideas and they need to do it and run on their own. Or maybe, just maybe, you can do it all yourself, but you need a little more information. There's no right or wrong answer to those things for the whole world. It's for what works for you. So, speaking mostly to entrepreneurs, let me just say that you have a million different options out there. Well, everybody does. But if you're in a job and the job is your career, but it's still heart centered, that's great. But you still have bosses usually, and you still have to do things their way. So you can't, and you don't need a website. The business card may be set out for you if you're a lawyer or a doctor, and the hospital says this is the way you need to do it. But there are a lot of other things you can do as well. You can make sure you're staying on the path. You can make sure that you still feel good about what you're doing, that you don't have so many hours that you're working that you totally burn out and you don't love what you're doing anymore. And that comes from both sides of the story. Entrepreneur versus someone who has a career in a regular career path. If you're working too many hours and all of a sudden you're going, I can't do this anymore. I'm not loving it anymore. I'm getting no sleep. I know lawyers at the beginning of their path, the associates they're expected to do so many hours. I don't know how they do it. Medical people, doctors especially, so many hours. Firefighters work a number of days in a row. And now you have to realize that all those things, the human body isn't used to doing that sort of thing. So you could definitely burn out. You could have too little sleep. You might not be eating well. You might not love what you're doing after a while. And if this is truly a heart-centered place that you are right now, then be aware that all those things might come up. Those things might come up that stop you from being able to love what you do. That maybe you'll get sick and your body goes, hello, pay attention to me because this isn't working for me. And if that happens, it doesn't mean the business or the career isn't working for you anymore. It just means you got to maybe take a few days off that you weren't used to taking. Maybe you need to take all that vacation that's piling up because you're too busy and you're afraid you'll get behind in your career path. Sometimes you need to pay attention to what's happening around you, to the amount of sleep you're getting, what you're eating. Find more healthy snacks that you can carry with you if need be, if you're that busy and you're eating garbage from the vending machines. Heart-centered businesses or careers make a difference to everybody. Because if you're on that path that feels right for you, you'll shift other people around you. You will make a difference to everybody. Just make sure you're not so burnt out that you don't love what you're doing anymore, or the people around you at home end up getting the short end of the stick because you're never there, because you're working too hard. Check in with yourself. Where are you now? Have you not started yet? Or are you in the middle? Or are you burnt out somewhere? You can find people to help you. You can find people to ways to market yourself if you're getting to the point of, I'm working so hard and nothing's happening. Or I'm working so hard and I have so many clients that I can't see them all. I have a waiting list. Yay for you. You just need to figure out how to let it all in and not do it all yourself. Entrepreneurs are really bad about that. They do it all themselves. Sometimes you need to take those steps, spend a little bit of money, and find a way to make sure that your heart-centered business doesn't end up boom, because you weren't paying attention to how you were feeling. Maybe it became more like work than the love that you have for it at first. I know hobbies, that's what happens sometimes. You make your hobby your business, and your hobby becomes work, and you don't love it anymore. So make sure that whatever you love that you're doing doesn't become work as a four-letter word. It doesn't become that work that makes you complain about getting up in the morning, hating the drive to work, hating doing what you're doing, whatever it may be. Don't let that happen. Because as a heart-centered business owner or a heart-centered person who's doing the career they just love, you don't want to shift that into that negative place. Sometimes, though, I will say, if you're there, realize that sometimes you're not listening. Sometimes what you want, you're doing great and you're being shifts because you've learned what you need to do. And you have a little bit different thing you need to do. So you need to shift your path that 0.5% to from here to a little bit over. And you're going, okay, now I'm back on it. Because maybe, like I said, for me, my direction shifted a tiny bit. I went from being spiritual guide for practical matters to, oh no, I'll be a transformational coach. And now, after doing the spiritual coaching classes and having more clients that got me in the right place for me to feel authentic and more heart-centered, now I'm back to spiritual guide for practical matters, but I'm actually over here because I'm feeling different about it. So allow yourself to morph and shift. And maybe the career path isn't quite right. Maybe the specialty needs to be shifted. Or maybe you need to take yourself out of where you are working for a specific, for example, a hospital or a specific, if you're a lawyer, a specific larger firm, and have your own firm. Or work with 2 or 3 people. Or shift to public defender work. Or as a doctor, maybe you open your own separate practice rather than, and then you just have privileges at the hospital. Whatever it is that would make you feel more heart-centered. Make sure if that happens, that you're in the middle and things aren't feeling right, that you pay attention to other possibilities. Talk to people. Not people that can fire you necessarily if you want to change, but people outside, not on social media where everybody will find out, but a friend or two who you can take into confidence. Maybe a colleague who is someone who is separate, kind of a friend colleague who's been there, who's shifted, and say, tell me, how did you make this work? You went from this to that, and I might want to do that, but I don't know yet. Can you tell me something about this stuff? And maybe you don't tell anybody because I'm just thinking about it and I don't want the word out yet. And the right person, the right kind of mentor that you can find there will tell you, oh, I'd love to talk to you. Let me tell you what I did. Because usually they'll be excited about how they got from here to there. And they want to tell you all those pitfalls they ran into, which may not be ones you run into, but which they'll tell you how they got through them. And you can go, oh my God, this is great to have all these ideas if that stuff shows up. Or if there's certain ways to get maybe people that you'll be recommended to, like website people, the people to host the website, the people to create it, the people to handle the social media. I mean, if it's depending on what you're doing, you'll have additional resources that you can get from the person or people that you talk to. So be open, especially if you're just starting out. Go to things like chambers of commerce, talk to people, get ideas. If you're like me and you're in the spiritual profession type of things or the more holistic type things, there's a holistic chamber of commerce, which mostly at this point meets by Zoom. So you can get to know people there one by one, little by little, and you can create your network that way. You can find out information on how they did things and ask them lots of questions. Or you can advertise yourself, or both. They're great connections and networking to do. And I'm going to talk a whole thing about networking on another podcast and actually another show on YouTube because I've already done a podcast on that, how to do all that. So this, hopefully you'll understand now what a heart-centered business is, how to find one, how to connect to it. Because the next one are going to all be about the next parts of it, the larger chunks perhaps that might come up to block you that you might need some help on. So until next time, if you like what you hear, by all means, and you want to hear more about the Connect to Joy that I do, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell notification. You'll see every Sunday night that a Joy Corner comes out, which are I Am affirmations, and every Wednesday, a different heart-connected space that you can find joy with. Sometimes they seem a little off the wall, but every single one is meant to speak to different people at different levels of what you're looking for in your life. There's also, of course, the blog I mentioned, and that one, the podcast is Living Your Limitless Life. And if you want to find out more about me, you can go directly to my website at connecttojoy.com. Connect, and that's the number 2, joy.com. Link will be below the video. Until next week, please know that you are already enough to have that joyful, limitless life that you desire, whatever you want to do in your life.